There was a man who hung on the cross, dying for our sins. And for so many who gathered on that day, seeing the death take place, for so many of them, just like us today, we struggle in those moments because for us, when we get that glimpse of death, we start to believe and convince ourselves that everything we wanted to happen is now impossible. It's done, it's over, and Saturday came. For the disciples and many of the believers and followers of Jesus that day, Saturday was a dark day of silence, a day of questions, a day of uncertainty, a day when they just wondered if everything they gave in their lives to was just a fake and a fraud. And I wonder how many of us sitting here today struggle with that too. But Sunday came. The sun rose on that Sunday morning, and the earth shook in such a powerful way because in that moment, the creator of everything that is, the king of all the universe, came down to the earth and broke through that tomb. The king has come. He is risen. And through him, we have victory over death. We have the opportunity of life. And I bet there's many of us sitting in this room or watching online, and we come to Sundays just like this. And for many of us, we hear this story, and let's be honest, I bet it's safe to assume that the high majority, if not all of us, we know this story. We've heard this story. I'm not going to go through the story and tell you the story that you already know. I think where we wrestle with is, why does the story matter to me? Why does this story that sounds great and is all good and feel good, what difference does it make for me in 2024 with all the stuff I have to deal tomorrow and Tuesday and Wednesday and you name it? What does it matter to me? And I think if you even peel the curtain back a little bit more, behind that question is a deeper question that many of us wrestle with. We look at that cross and we remember the sacrifice that Jesus did for us. How gruesome and awful of a sacrifice that he gave for us. And then as I look at that cross, I see the reflection of me. And as I see the reflection of me, I know my thoughts. I know my past. I know my story. I know what I've done. And I look at that and say, how was it worth it? How was it worth it? And I bet it's safe to assume that maybe we all wrestle with this question, am I worth it? And I bet many of you are sitting here right now today with one of those two questions. Why does this even matter to me? Let's just get through the day. And am I worth it? And I hope as we journey together today, you'll walk out of here with answers to both of those questions. Because that empty tomb matters. And because of that empty tomb, you matter. You are worth it. You matter. Because you know what this is all about? What this is all about, this cross, this empty tomb, the Creator God who we celebrate today, it's all about life. Everything has to do about life. And you go all the way back to the beginning of the story when God, Jehovah Jireh, created everything that is. You know what he created most specifically in all of his creation? What it was all about? It was about life and our life through him. See, the story is about the master designer and his desperate desire for us to have life in him. So with that, with the backdrop, let's take a journey today to realize that this cross and the empty tomb is the reality of life and God's desire for you to experience life in him. So let's kind of narrow the focus on us as individuals and journey through this today, looking at the mirror of our own lives and the value of your life in the sight of God. And that what he did makes a significant difference on the life you live, even today, even with everything you got going on today. So let's take a journey on the reality of this life that's highlighted in a Psalm 139. Let me read this for you. It's written, "For you were created in my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me, you were written in the book before one of them came to be." I want to this morning just kind of leave that passage up there for a little while as we kind of digest this, as we kind of unpack this, because there's so much power in these words on the reality and the value of your life and what the empty tomb was all about. Because the very voice of God that spoke everything into existence, go back to Genesis 1, the world was spoken into existence by the word, by the voice of God. And that very voice of God spoke you and me into existence. Think about that for a moment. Your life was spoken into existence by the power of the living God. He knew you and he knows you. And so when you ask that question, does anybody know me? Does anybody get me? He does. Oh boy, does he. And that phrase, that Psalm 139 starts with, "for you." We miss in this English text how strong of a language the Hebrew verbiage was there. For you, exclamation point. For you, the living God, exclamation point. For you, the creator of everything that is, exclamation point. For you, God, life can only become a reality because of you. Life is impossible separate from you. For you, all this is possible. And we like to downplay it like it was just kind of some boom and some macro organisms kind of came together and boom, there was life. But when you really look at the reality of life, it cannot even take place without a creative creator, the designer himself. And this passage is highlighting, God, I don't care what the world says, because everything is because of you. Nothing can be in existence apart from you. You are the creator who formed life out of nothing. And you matter to me. And he says, you created me in my inmost being. You, creator God, created me in my inmost being. You know what the word there for inmost being? It's like weird if you actually use the actual Hebrew language. For you created my kidneys. Yay. There you go, boys. But you know, the kidneys were the seat of the emotions. Today in Western society, the seat of our emotions is our heart. How many of you guys are in love? You married people better get those hands shooting up right now. How many of you guys once were in love? Married people, we better get those hands down. Right? Somewhere tonight, there's a couple going on a date. The guy's going to tell his girl, hey, honey, I love you with all my heart. And when you think about it, this blood-pumping vessel, it's like, that's kind of nasty. Have you ever seen a heart? That's kind of weird. You know, in some countries in the world, you know what the seat of the emotions are? The liver. Somewhere in some other country, some guy's telling his girl, baby, you make my liver quiver. Some places, it's the bowels. Yuck. Just imagine some guy's telling a girl tonight, oh, baby, you move me, baby. But here in this moment, the seat of the emotion were the kidneys. You see, there's something powerful here in the creation of everything that is, in the creation of life. When we downplay life to just some boom, there it was, we downplay the reality of life to all it is a physical nature. But life is so much more than that. When God created life, life is physical, emotional, and spiritual. And here what's highlighted in Psalm 139 is God, you, creator of everything that is. Life is because of you. Life is only from you. Life cannot exist from you. You created me in the most secret place, in my emotions. The seat of who I am, my emotional self is because of you and for you and by you. It wasn't just a heartbeat and some lungs and some arms. You created the totality of me. In my secret of places, you know me. You developed me. You created me. And as we look at life, Jesus said in the New Testament, he said, I came to give life, but not just life, but life more abundantly. And we wrestle with the idea of life. What is life? And the reality is, life is just this journey of emotions. That's what it is, right? Some days, woo, life is awesome. Some days, life stinks. I hate it, right? And that's what life is. Life is just a series of emotions. So think about it. The God who created life, who gave you life, who created you in your inmost being, your emotional self, came to give you life more abundantly. Not just a better physical self, but a better emotional self, mental self, spiritual self, because he knows you. He cares about you. He created every aspect of you. You matter to him. And then the writer says, not only did you create me in my inmost being, but you knit me together in my mother's womb. What he's saying there is, you are so amazing in all of your powerfulness, in all of your amazingness, in all of your creative ability. In the dark place of my mother's womb, you knit every piece of me together. My physical self, my personality, everything about me is by you. You spoke it into existence. The same power that spoke everything into existence. You spoke my life, every part of me, the holistic of Bill, into existence. You created me, and because of that, I matter to you. You are the master designer of life. Everything about God's creation was about the reality of life. Life that was supposed to be found in him and through him. And by that journey, we find life with meaning and purpose. And the writer says, oh man, because you created me in my inmost being, because you knitted me together in my mother's womb, I praise you. I praise you. I can't stop praising you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. But there's something about that phrase right there. See, all the smart theologians out there, I'm not one of them. I just kind of hang on the outside and kind of watch them all argue. That was kind of supposed to be funny. But they struggle with this verb, this phrase here. They struggle with how it should really be translated. Because the Hebrew there word for wonderfully, you know what it can also the word that's used there? Separate. So listen to that phrase when it's written that way. I praise you because I have been separated for awesome things. Wow. Isn't that powerful? There's something deeper here. Listen, guys, look at me. Listen to me. God created you with a uniqueness that's only supposed to be found in Him. You have a uniqueness that God designed you for. Something powerful, something amazing, something beyond you could ever imagine, because the creator of everything that is spoke you into life. And He separated you for awesome things. But the struggle is, those awesome things are only to found in Him, through Him. You see, because when God created life, He created life to be in the presence of the Creator, with the Father. And because of that, with the creation of life, it develops this strong spiritual need for connection with the creative God. To us experience that abundant life, we need Him. Apart from Him, it's broken. It's difficult. And I realize we look at these words and it's like, I have such a hard time fully grasping everything. And I do too. It's so difficult to try to understand it all, because you know why? The Bible teaches us that all this stuff is a mystery. That's what the Bible calls us. This is all a mystery, because there is the providence of God that we don't always get. And we have to just acknowledge that sometimes, because He is God, He is providential, He's bigger than me, sometimes I just don't get it. And so I need to trust Him, lean on Him. And through that, through Him, I experience life. Because within His providence, we have a responsibility. That empty tomb is the providence and the power of God coming into this world. But that empty tomb also gives us a responsibility. You see, God's intentionality in His design of you and of me proclaims that you're loved, you're valued, you have worth, you have meaning, you have purpose found in Him, you belong to Him. And in Him and in His presence, you find that purpose and you find that value and you found that meaning, because God created life that was only supposed to be experienced in His presence. It's the only way. When I try to do life my way apart from Him, when I disconnect myself from Him, guess what? I mess everything up, because life was supposed to be in Him. And that's why the devil's a primary way to attack us, how he goes after us, the same way he did for Adam and Eve, is the same thing he does for us. He causes us to begin to question the very reality of God. Is this all true? Does God exist? Does He really care about me? Is this really true? And as He develops questions in our minds, it causes us to drift. That's His goal. His goal is causes us to question, then drift. Question, then drift. Luring us away from the presence of God that is light into darkness. You see, before God spoke everything into existence, the Bible teaches us that everything was dark and void of life. And the devil's desire is to pull us back to that space. Because it's in the darkness, in the emptiness, where negativity starts to consume our minds and our hearts. Where more questions just seem to become rampant that turn into negativity. It's where we struggle with life and experiencing life physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And my fear, guys, is that there's so many of us who are sitting here today. Physically, we're here. But mentally and spiritually, we're just in dark spaces. We're just broken. We're just beat down. And we don't know how to get through. And my encouragement to you is, you got to find your way to his presence. Because when he created everything good in the garden with the intent and the desire that life was always found in his presence. But we questioned, we drifted, and we separate ourselves from his presence. But you know what's amazing? Is this loving God who created you for a purpose and a reason because he desperately loves you and wants to be in a relationship with you, did not give up on you and me. He chased and he chased and he chased. And then he brought his son who died on that cross. And so why does this tomb matter? Why does this story make a difference for me? What does the empty tomb have to do for me today? Well, the empty tomb, it's the reality. It's the fact that the king, the creator of everything that is, did not stop chasing you. The tomb was light breaking through the darkness of this world one time again to come flying through so that he can usher back in the presence of the power of his presence and the life that he has for him, to bring back life in the darkness, life within him, life with him, and life through him. That's what the empty tomb is all about. The empty tomb is getting back to the reality that I am created by a loving God who desperately designed me uniquely to be set apart for awesome things in him. I walked away. I brought brokenness. I brought destruction. And I'm tired of sitting in this dark place, and light came through that empty tomb, and now I have life. That's why it matters. That's why it's significant. Our life and our purpose and our value is in his presence. That's why the Apostle Paul wrote in Galatians 2, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life now I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself up for me. Do you see that? What Paul is saying, because of the cross, because of the power of the empty tomb that ushered light back into this dark world, we are no longer defined by our bodies or ourselves or the lives we are trying to create. Why live in this body? Guess what? This is not my home. Because there's life beyond this. There's life that's bigger than me. And my life is found and defined by the Creator God, who designed me for separate and more awesome things. He authored me into existence. He authored you into existence. You matter because of him, because of what he's done. You see, the cross revealed Jesus' humanity and his love, and the empty tomb revealed his divinity and his victory for us, which is found through grace. So I think our responsibility within his providence is to find our way to his presence and dwell in his presence. That journey is highlighted in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, which is written, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. You see that? How we experience God's presence, how we run towards his presence, it's about trusting, leaning, and submitting. I realize sometimes we struggle with trust because trust has been violated for many of us in our world. But he is faithful, and I challenge you to trust him. Sometimes we try to only go with what we can explain, but guess what? There's some things that you and I, we can never fully explain. And we lean on his understanding. And because of that, we submit to him as the way, the truth, and the life. And that's my challenge for you today. Wherever you're at in your journey, fight for your way back to his presence. And I realize that some of you sitting here today, you're going, Bill, I don't know. I don't trust him. I don't know why I should trust him. And if that's you, I wrestle with some serious trust in my life. With those who broken trust with me, and because of that, with the God who I'm called to supposedly to trust. And if you're sitting there today and you're like, Bill, I don't trust this God stuff at all. That's okay. But can I just humbly ask for an opportunity? Let's just have a conversation. Let's just talk about it. You might be sitting there saying, lean on his understanding. No, if I can't define it or mathematically kind of answer it or scientifically prove it, then I don't trust it. I'm not going to go with it. I need to understand before I do anything. And I went through all that journey too. And if you're sitting there today and it's like, I just don't think I can lean on this Jesus stuff. I respect that. But if that's you, can we just have a conversation? Can we just catch up sometime and just chat about it? Or maybe you're sitting there today and that submit word, that's like a, don't bring that word up in my house. I want to make my life my way, trust my way. I can do things on my own. Jesus, the way, the truth, like, no. I respect that again. But all I ask is, can I have an opportunity? Can we just have a chance to chat about it? Let's just have a conversation. Because I once was in all three of those categories. And as I wrestled through all three of those categories and tried to define life through me and my ways and what I want or my understanding, I always messed it up. But when I finally, as the Bible says, denied myself and gave it to him, there's goodness in him, guys. There's a power in his presence that I never experienced before him. And all I ask is, if that's you in one of those areas, let's chat. Just give me a chance. Let's talk about it. Because I believe you can experience his power in your life too.